Types and shadows, she says. Okay. At some point in all of our lives, we win. Some of us don't recognize when we win. It's not something that you're necessarily trying not to do, but we all win at something. We're all successful at something. There is not a person on this earth that did not, at my age, win at something. Whether you graduated from preschool, college, won a contract, had a baby, learned Braille, I don't know, cooked a meal, received a hug from somebody. The measurements of wins may not be as important to some people, but most of those seem like wins to me. All of those seem like wins to me. But I'm kind of a corny geek, even though maybe I don't come across that way. A win is a win. Whether you win by a half a step, a hair, a nose. Now you can always win better later, but a win is a win. Learning how to take your wins and create other wins means that you master the principles of the first win. What did it take for me to win? What are those things that I'm not talking about, you have a superstition that if you don't do it this way, this way, this way, this way, even though a principle and a process can seem very superstitious. Which means that you take certain steps to get to your end result. Now, your end result may not happen 100% of the time, but it happens enough where you feel like you have kind of mastered, you have mastered the ability to get that particular thing done over and over again. Like, for example, some people have a process when they study, and that process is successful enough that they use it over and over again to continue studying certain things. Maybe they wake up at a certain time in the morning, they have their water to clear their mind, maybe they go for a jog or a run, maybe they go into the gym, maybe they have breakfast before they start studying. Maybe they study at night, when everything is, calmed down so that they don't have the distractions. We pick up these principles, these processes on how to win. And then after you win, other people, after you become victorious at something, there's still a process even after that so that you don't lose your mind. Some people, they win and all of a sudden they lose their mind and they start doing things that are self-destructive. Staying away from self-destruction is a major part of being able to produce your wins over and over and over again. Once you take on a self-destructive mindset, it becomes harder to come back to that place where you want to win. Like, for example, you'll win, and all of a sudden you'll get, I don't know, a crazy favor from somebody. And then you take that crazy favor, you accomplish your goal, and then after you won, then you go off the beaten path with no discipline, and you take advantage of that crazy favor, or you walk away from that crazy favor, and then you try to come back, and it's a little bit harder when you come back to get that crazy favor, but you get it again. And you do whatever you get from that crazy favor, and then you go off and you there's no discipline. So there are processes, there are procedures to be able to produce something over and over again in different realms. What does it mean to do it in different realms? That means whether I'm a doctor, an investor, and an attorney, one person, let's just say one person, doctor, investor, and attorney, they put in the work to become all three. Those are different realms. Doctor, an attorney, and investor. Doctor, investor, and attorney. They put in the work to do all three. And let's just say, and there are people that do that. You know, they study, they become doctors, whether it's doctors in theology or doctors, medical doctors, or whatever, and they get their JD, which is just jurisdiction or something like that. JD, and it's like a doctor, and that's how you can become a lawyer. You go to school, you become a lawyer. Let's just say you become a constitutional lawyer. So now you have a degree in theology, and now you have a degree in constitutional law. And you're an investor. So you take your money and you learn how to invest. You learn how to invest, and then you put those principles to work in investing. That successful person who is a doctor in theology has learned how to take those principles and use them to become a doctor in law, and has taken those principles and been able to become an investor. It's not the subject matter, it's the principles and the practices that you pick up to be able to be successful in whatever realm you're in. Those are different realms, different professions, different different talents. But they all require the same principles, which are discipline, humility, to learn the information, asking questions, all these different things. Study to show yourself approved. Practice. That's why in medicine and as an attorney, they're called practices. You have to practice. You're constantly learning. Constantly learning. We can all be victorious over and over again. And my daughter wanted me to focus on this. But we have to learn the types and shadows of success. So let's talk about that. And then I'll read Deuteronomy chapter 26. The types and shadows. So the shadows, let's talk about the shadows first. The shadows are exactly that, shadows of the information carried over into something else. So for example, I may tell you a story that happened in my life years ago. It may have never happened to you, but based upon the information I told you, you could pick up where it's relatable in your life. Those are the shadows. The shadows. So it means that what happened for me can happen for you. Successes and failures. As you call them failures, they're just experiences. But I'm trying to be relatable. I really am. So whether you do something well over and over again, I can give you my testimony, but my testimony will only be a shadow to your experience. It means it probably will not happen exactly the same for you. But for example, if I say I got up every morning at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I made my trek to the office from Long Beach, and I sat here and I studied until God said, okay, that's enough. Now log that on a video. God may not tell you to do that with a video, but he may tell you to do that with your exercise program. He may tell you to do that with taking care of the elderly. He may tell you to do that with training up, training someone, being there for a younger person. He may tell you that those same principles and practices. He may ask you to do that in a different thing, because the principle works. Waking up early in the morning, being thankful to God, and then going off, spending some quiet time with God, and then going off, getting into the Word of God, is a shadow of you waking up in the morning, being thankful, spending some quiet time with God, and then going off and spending some time with a particular person or a particular subject matter or a particular whatever, to get to know it, to get to know him, her, it. It's a principle. It's that time that's not required by somebody else. It's required by God for you to get to know something before you spend time saying that you have experience in it. Can you imagine someone preaching and they've never read the Word of God? They have to have that quiet time. There's a certain process that we all have to go through to get to know anything. So it's a shadow. It's a best practice, if you will, is another way of putting it. It's a best practice of how to learn anything, learn about anything, learn about anyone. A type. A type is not much different, but it comes from a different angle. It deals with what's appropriate for whatever it is that you're learning. So, if I'm teaching about war practices, the Lord of Hosts, I'm in a particular subject matter. So that particular subject matter is the basis of our education. It's the basis of our focus. Focus is the word. So I'm focusing in on the principles of a subject matter type. Shadow are the actions. Type and shadow. So you have to pay attention to the type, the subject matter, as well as the actions. the steps taken. If I want to change my diet, I'm going to look at those types. So I may go on the video and watch this one young lady. I don't know how old she is. I can't tell how old she is, but I want to say she's 40, but she looks 20. And then she talks about the nutritional things that she's doing, and handstands and the splits and the this and the that. Then I look at the muscle-bound guys. I'm like, I don't want to be a muscle-bound guy. But then I'm looking at the principles that they're using. I'm listening to Shannon Sharp, who's a retired football player who has a broadcast called Club Shay Shay. This might not make it on because that's copywritten. But it's you look at all these different people. You're paying attention, and you're looking at the different types of subject matter and the shadow actions. In a shadow, when things move, the shadow moves. So you may not be able to pay attention to the subject matter itself. The subject matter itself is, like if I want to learn karate, I may not be paying attention to the type of jiu-jitsu, but I'm paying attention to the shadow of discipline. I hope that helps. Subject matter, movement. Deuteronomy chapter 26. And it shall be when thou come in unto the land which the Lord thy God give thee, an inheritance, and possess it, and dwell therein. Verse 2, that thou shalt take of the first of all the fruit of the earth, which thou shalt bring of thy land, that the Lord thy God give thee, and shalt put in a basket, and shalt go unto the place which the Lord thy God shall choose to place his name there, and thou shalt go unto the priest that shall be in those days, and say unto him, and this is important, and thou shalt go unto the priest and say unto him, I profess, acknowledge, in other words, this day unto the Lord thy God, that I am come unto the country which the Lord sware unto our fathers for to give us. Verse 4, and the priest shall take the basket out of thine hand, and set it down before the altar of the Lord thy God, and thou shalt speak and say before the Lord thy God, Assyrian, ready to perish, my father, and he went down into Egypt, and sojourned there with a few, and became there a nation, great, mighty, and populous. Verse 6, and the Egyptians evil entreated us, and afflicted us, and laid upon us hard bondage. That's great type and shadow there. That's great type and shadow. Have you ever gone someplace, gone anywhere? Have you ever gone someplace, thrived there for a period of time, and then someone stepped in who didn't know you, didn't hire you, knew nothing about you, spent no quiet time getting to know you, but they had their own agenda coming in, and for that reason did evil to you. I think it would be hard pressed for anyone to say they haven't had that experience. Most of us have had that experience. That's type and shadow. Your treatment wasn't based upon uh, your your treatment. The treatment you received was not based upon your effectiveness. It was based upon someone. It was based upon someone else's ineffectiveness. It was based upon their evil. This is where some people don't understand why they're treated a certain way. No, it's just human nature. This people, yeah, you're crossing you're crossing experiences with other people. It's not it's and I hate to say it like this, but I just think this is a fact. It's not about you or me. It's about everyone having their experiences. Your ability to adjust to those experiences will help you succeed or fail or have another experience. You can turn things around where, from my experiences, I didn't. You can make it better. Now I feel like I'm just talking to my daughter. By the way, if I didn't say this, which I don't think I did, this is for my kids, my grandkids, my brothers and sisters in Kenya, my brothers and sisters in Ghana. And to whomever else feel like I'm a teacher, God bless you. So you could take someone else's experiences where they had a bad result, and you could turn it into a good result by making a different choice. What's being explained here is someone making the right choices, because they're proclaiming that once they get into the promised land, verse 1, and it shall be. That's the proclamation right there. And it shall be. And here's the transition. When, and it shall be when. So this is the wisdom speaking. This is wisdom speaking. Through the hand of Moses to those who may or may not understand the type and shadow, or may or may not understand, because this stuff he's sharing is no different than what Abram went through. Noah, the forefathers, Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The inheritance, the promise was made to the forefathers. They get to take advantage of the inheritance. They just have to take the right steps. This isn't even based upon them. Go up to Deuteronomy chapter 25, verse 19, where it says, "Therefore it shall be, when the Lord thy God has given thee rest from all thine enemies round about, in the land which the Lord thy God give thee an inheritance to possess it, thou shalt blot out the remembrance of Amalek. We talked about this in the last video. Thou shalt block out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. Thou shalt not forget." You forgive. And I think this is where people get the term "you forgive, but you don't forget." You don't want to forget because you want to understand the experience so that you can make the right decisions in the future as it pertains to that particular type of spirit, the Amalek spirit, the nomadic spirit that doesn't believe in a one God system. They believe in serving multiple gods. In particular, nature, the moon, the stars, the sun. They worship everything. in other words, they're willing to do whatever it takes to succeed. They'll come in, adopt your practices, just to take over your land. He said, forgive them, but don't forget that spirit. Now you're here. Excuse me. Once you win, so he's saying in verse 1, and I feel like I just have to reiterate this. So he's saying in verse 1 of Deuteronomy 26, he's saying, and it shall be. You hear the transition? And it shall be. So forget the Amaleks. Release the people on your journey that tried to do harm to you. Get over them. Don't worry about it. I'm bringing you into a place of success, and it shall be. When you come to that place of success, that land, and I give it to you. In other words, you win. You have made the journey. You've put in the time, the focus. You've learned the best practices. Because keep in mind, we're coming to the end of the Torah now. You did it. You're here now. And it shall be, when thou come in unto the land which the Lord thy God give thee. You were faithful. Some people died in the process. You're still here. So I'm going to give you the inheritance of your fathers because I love them. And by the way, this is the way it works. If you want your kids to succeed, you have to live by these practices. And if you want their grandkids to succeed, you have to teach your kids how to live by these practices. Oh, this is good. At a certain point, you have to stop striving and actually start teaching. And allow God to create the increase for you. Bring you into the good place. I've reached a place in my life where I'm done. I will answer questions from those who are interested in learning from my journey. But I have nothing else to prove. I have put myself in situations to help people, and people have degraded me, Amalek. Because you have to learn the principles. People have degraded me, and I have not warred against people who have brought harm to my life. How did they bring harm to me? By taking advantage of me. Even though they knew they were doing it, and I knew they were doing it. So I've come to a place in my life where it's like, okay, I don't have to do this. I don't have to give you something that God has given me, and you're still trying to. You still don't understand the principles. I'm good on that. So my prayer is different. So my production will be different. Bear with me. Stay with me. So once He brings me into this new land, forgive everybody. And follow these steps. Possess the land that He gives you. Own it. Well, I got to be careful when I say own it. Be an ambassador This is going to be a little bit longer video. In fact, I'm going to make 2 videos. Let's go ahead and transition that. Cash App $ the Mr. Paul Dozier. Cash App $ the Mr. Paul Dozier. We're on a journey. Yes, we are. From Genesis to Revelation. I don't know how long it's going to take. But if these videos are good for you, please like and share them with other people. If they're good for you, they will be good for other people. We are coming to the end of the Torah. What a challenging road it's been. I cannot begin to tell you how challenging it is. Some of you know. Most of you don't. This is my personal Bible study, so please study to show yourself approved. And thank you. Oh, by the way, we got books on Amazon. And thank you for taking the journey with me, and thank you for taking the journey with those who are called to usher in the kingdom of